Welcome to Business Notes. I'm your host, Diane Bogino. I'm happy to have as my guest today, AmyWynne Rees. Amy is an artist and the creator of personality plates. Women are at the heart of AmyWynne Designs, and Amy created personality plates as a tribute to the women that have helped, motivated, and inspired her throughout her life in both happy and more turbulent times. Her limited edition stoneware, appetizer, and dessert-sized plates are brightly colored, bold, and full of personality, just like Amy. Originally from New York, Amy has lived in Atlanta for over 30 years. And now here's Amy to tell us about her journey from journalism to art. Amy, welcome to Business Notes, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Hi, Diane. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yes, I'm excited to talk about these plates too. But first, tell the audience a little bit about your early years and how did you wind up in Atlanta?
Okay. So both of my parents are from New York. I was born in New York City. My mom's from Syracuse, and they both went to Syracuse University. So it was one of those where they tried the city, didn't like it, both decided to move back to Syracuse. So I was actually, born in New York City, but raised in Syracuse, and actually in a really small town. So I come from very small town, like the same kids I went to elementary school, middle school, and high school with. Almost similar to East Cobb, where I live now. It's kind of like a similar vibe, but in the north. Graduated college, Ithaca College, got a job at CNN after having an internship. So I just, who says no to a job opportunity at CNN when you're 21 years old?
Right.
Packed up the family Subaru wagon and drove down by myself. Got an apartment and proceeded to spend the next 6-7 years working at CNN in a variety of positions, living in different apartments with different roommates all over Atlanta. That's how I got down here and got started down in Atlanta.
So at CNN, what did you do? Were you in the newsroom? Did you
I
have
was
your
in
own
the
show?
newsroom. So they had video journalists, and I don't know if they hire people that way anymore, but it was anybody who started out in a VJ, video journalist role. And you were either editorial, this is from the newsroom production side, you were either editorial side or production, technical side. I was editorial side. So I worked, on the side of like production assistant, but we started running camera, back in the days, I'm open, I'm 55, I'm not shy about it. And I'm sure you remember back in the days of printers where the dot matrix printers. So we used to rip scripts.
Yeah.
Rip scripts and pass them out. And then I worked my way up to being like a kind of a floating assistant producer kind of person, and then went into management. So I was doing scheduling and I was hiring makeup artists. So, you name it, I pretty much did it on the news side.
Interesting. That's exciting. So
Yeah.
how did you get from the corporate sales to mass producing pottery?
Well, and obviously I was doing CNN stuff was very journalistic side. And when I was still very young, I was in my mid-20s, and I decided I wanted to do something. I actually thought I wanted PR. And at CNN, they really wanted to have outside experience. So I just kind of left CNN and started doing various sales jobs to try and find myself. And to be honest, I don't think I ever really found myself doing any of that, but I spent many, many years in various sales jobs. But I got married at 25 and moved out to the suburbs at that time. And so, I was in just a whole bunch of different sales jobs and doing that. And in my first marriage, say it didn't work out well is an understatement. I don't want to throw stones, but, I was pretty much left to my own devices. I don't think my husband at the time was really ready to be married and had other interests. And so I was very isolated. You can imagine being 25, 26, right, 27, and being moved out to Alpharetta at that time. And at that time, Alpharetta was really out in the sticks, in the 90s. So I was very isolated and alone. And a good friend of mine had said, oh, you should come do pottery with me. It'll be fun. It'll give you something to do. And, it was more than a hobby, and I mentioned in my story online too, that that's where that female connections really started for me, is that, I'm married, so I'm not out at bars. I'm not out dating, right? There was a man in my life, but not really in my life. So I turned to the next best thing, which turned out to be the best thing for me, was, in groups of women. So I was at that pottery studio, gosh, I want to say, 2-3 nights a week. And what happens, right? Like anybody else, they were there for reasons too, right? Whether they needed to escape something, or they were trying to find their passion, or they were just creative. And these women kind of became like, a pottery family to me. And I was there for years, and it's a lot of the same women. So I'm still in touch with one of them I just reconnected with. And my art teacher, I still talk to her, Red. Her name was Red. One of my very first plates I created, I named Red after her too.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
So what made you start your own business?
Well, like I said, that had become a hobby for me, right? But it really was a passion. And the story's very long. And I do try to share it when I can, and anybody who's really interested. But I went through the first marriage, came out of that, got married a second time, had kids, right? And the pottery was always the hobby. The kids became my job, my full-time job. And then that marriage failed. Kind of speeding through my life. As you can tell, there's a lot of history there, but really, as this is, to get to the meat of the story, is that marriage is failing. I still love my pottery. Over the 20 something years, I've collected boxes. I mean, boxes of these plates. And when I said I made a plate that I named Red after my teacher, what had happened over the course of time is I started creating women's faces on plates. And they just started developing personalities. And I was writing stories about the women that I was creating. So I was inventing, some were imaginary, some were real, some were based on somebody's story, but with little tweaks of humor, So that's kind of what I was doing for fun. And then as people would come over to my house while I was still in my second marriage, and I just got such enthusiastic responses, and everybody, you got to sell them. So I was selling the original ones, which are large, cumbersome, very fragile, three-dimensional. I was selling them in stores around town. So again, just a hobby, And then the second marriage fails. The children grow up. Fast forward to, I'm living in a house, without a husband, by myself, with my girls who are now in high school. And I'm looking at the plates and I think, what, maybe it is the time. So I started researching, and for anybody out there who's ever tried to mass produce something, right? Because that's how you scale a business. Because as you can imagine with pottery, if I tried to hand make plates, that's not a living. Again, that's a hobby, right? You cannot work fast enough and sell at a price that you can support yourself.
No.
But it just kind of hit me. I was like, I heard all those voices, all those friends who were like, why don't you sell them? Why don't you sell them? People will buy them. So I looked into it years ago, and it's very hard to find a third party vendor who can mass produce your plates for you, right? Because again, you're talking about overseas, and you have to trust. There's a lot, but these are my babies. They have names at home. Even the ones I sell don't have names, but behind the scenes, they have names to me. I wasn't just going to release them, right, and not know what was going to happen to them. They were my property, my intellectual property. But if you've ever worked with any artists or know anybody, you can't really patent or copyright an image because it's art. Right. So you just have to hope nobody else copies you. If they do, they don't do it as well. So I just felt so protective, and fearful. Right. I'm still single. I've got kids that have to go through college. I think I allowed the fear, and I used that excuse of I can't trust anybody with them. So I just let them sit in boxes in my sunroom for years. And then, long story short, I remarried, husband number 3. And, you know, you're much more mature in your 40s. And we both, you know, he's the best thing that ever happened to me. And we always say, if I had married him earlier, I wouldn't have appreciated the person that he is. You know, so it was meant to be. We weren't meant to be together until now. We did meet in 3rd grade. But again, that's a whole other story. Never dated, wasn't one of those like, oh my, we never dated. We were always just friends, lost touch, gained touch, lost touch. So here we are today, married, and he moves in with me, leaves his home in New York. And he says to me, hey, our neighbor Jen, you know, she does sourcing, right? How come you never showed her your plates? You ever have one of those moments? You know,
right in your own backyard, right?
Right, my own. I mean, and the thing is, I knew she had worked with Ballard Designs for years, and I knew she'd gone out on her own, but I just didn't put 2 and 2 together. Or maybe again, it was that fear, that nagging, like just avoiding, right? To that fear that we all have sometimes, that if we take the chance, what's going to happen? But he said it, he put it out there, and he had already told her. So she reached out and was like, when am I going to get to see your plates? So it's COVID 2020. I was doing corporate sales still, right? And I was selling movie theater advertising. I'm just gonna let that sink in for just a minute.
And nobody was going to the theater.
So, you know, and it was basically commission only job. So at some point you realize there's no commission coming because nobody's buying advertising space because the movie theaters aren't open and it's COVID. And, you know, I kind of had that realization that, I don't know if you remember when it first happened, a lot of people were like, oh, 6 weeks, right? 6 weeks, it'll be over. 2 months, it'll be over. 3 months, it'll be over. And I just had that movie. No, this is not going to happen. So I said, all right, Jennifer, let's do this. If you think that people are going to buy them. And to be fair, I didn't even do that market research at that point because this had been there for so long in the back of my mind. And I felt like I spent 20 years doing market research with my target audience, which were my peers. And so I said, oh, I'm going to take a risk and do it. So she took my samples, she sent them out. They came back to me, and it was kind of almost like this overnight happening.
After 20 years, yeah.
After 20 years. And it was her, right? She just she sat down, she brought the spreadsheet. She's like, okay, if we order the samples here, here's the timeline, here's what'll happen here. And I just said, okay, let's do it. And then the samples arrived, and I was excited, and she was excited, and everybody showed them to was surprised at how nice they really came out. So there you have it. I just did it.
Yeah. Do you have some you can show the audience?
I do. So right now I only have one set. I'm self-funded. So I took the risk on myself. And so my first set is called Sisters, the first edition. And as you can see, there's texture to them because these are molded from my original. So my actual plates look just like this. And they just copied my exact plates for me, and they're mass producing them, but in my image and my original designs. And there's 4 different ladies. And again, we say sisters, but as everybody knows, sisters are not just blood sisters. Sisters are, if you ever had a foster sister or an adopted sister, or like me, I'm an only child.
Yeah.
I'm an only child, but I have sisters. I call them my sister. Some of them have been with me since I was in elementary school.
My
My best friend
goodness.
is more of a sister. I mean, we will say we're more sisters than friends at this point. We were 5 years old when we met.
Wow, that is great. So, what is your company's mission? Tell us your why.
So my why is really that, as I've kind of been building it along as we've been talking, is the women in my life had that support system, those friendships. I talked about it lightly, but being divorced twice was a lot. It was a lot on me emotionally. Raising daughters by myself. There's a lot of dark times and scary times and a lot of doubt and questioning of myself. And throughout the whole process, there were always women there to support me, whether they came into my life for a short period of time, like the woman who brought me to pottery, and I still think of her today. It's 25 years, but I still think of her as one of the reasons why I'm here today. So as women came into my life, I'm maybe it's because I'm an only child. I don't have sisters. So I think there was always women that came in that I had a special relationship with, that were there for me and supported me. And I couldn't even be where I am today without the friends that brought me here along the way. And my mom is sometimes like a sister more than a mom. I'm an only child. My dad passed away when he was 60. So, I was an adult and she helped me raise my daughters. She was there for me, coming over when I needed help, if I had to go to work. So yeah, these women were my motivation, my drive. And I realized they were also my inspiration as I was making plates. Like a handful of them are actually designed from friends I had. And over the course of years, when I used to make the larger ones that would hang on the wall that are decorative, I have friends that are now like, remember when you gave me this? And, they're putting them in their kitchen. They're like, I have an Amy original, and they're all so excited. And I'm reminded of why I gave these women these plates. So I thought the joy, they really love them. It really, years later, they're still talking about plates I gave them. So I feel like giving these to other women, whether it reminds them of women in their lives or it just brings more women into their home, right? There's that joy that they bring that I wanted other people to have. When you talk about a mission, to me, we're really lucky. I can talk about, my dark times. They were never that dark because I had my mom and had my friends. And I feel like there's a lot of women out there that are too afraid to leave an unhappy marriage or a husband. And it upsets me when I think about there are women who, can't leave a man for safety reasons, or even just sometimes it's as simple as out of fear. And I really love that there's organizations out there that are safe havens for women and children who do decide when they want to leave, and they have to leave without a shirt, they have the shirt on their back, right? The kids leave toys behind, they leave clothes behind, they leave everything behind, and then they're in a strange home. So I've always donated clothing to those places, but I thought, wouldn't it be great if I could become successful enough, right, where I could help fund some of these different locations that really help the women who don't have their own support system.
And how do you get your message out as you market your business? For example, could an association or a business meeting hire you and you would come speak?
I'd be totally open to doing that, talking about, women, I use the hashtag women supporting women, because to me, it's really, it's so important. It's important for me to support other women. I've always appreciated women who support me. I like to see other women support other women, because even with the changes in our times and women being hired, and there's still a level. Especially I'm Gen X, so we still kind of come from that space of maybe, whether it's real or not, feeling like we may or may not deserve something. So I do like the idea of helping women understand. One of my friends and we're doing a clubhouse. Some friends were getting on and we're talking about how you can, in some ways get out of your own way, right? How do you still follow your dream even in midlife, right? I'm in my 50s, right? So I want to tell people, don't be like, nah, I'm 50, forget it. It's too late for me to get a real estate license, or it's too late for me to start knitting, sweaters, or it's too late for me to. It's not.
No.
I mean, I'm taking on a big project in my 50s, mass producing something that sat around for a long time. So yeah, I love the idea of spreading that word. And I use social media right now. I use social media right now. But like I said, my friend and I, a few of us are starting a clubhouse group. So we're going to be talking to women about, don't let midlife stop you from chasing your dreams.
Right. How do they find you on Clubhouse?
That's a good question. So we have the room available. I'm going to be posting it on Facebook. So AmyWynne Designs or Personality Plates usually helps people find me on social media. AmyWynne Designs is my Instagram account, my personal one, but also Personality Plates has an account, and the same thing on Facebook. Amy Rees, Amy Strauss Rees, that's me, but Personality Plates has a Facebook page. So I do try when we're doing things like that to post on Facebook and on Instagram under Personality Plates to let people know what's coming.
Good. Yeah, your Instagram page is so cute. You've got a lot of cute little videos on there that I like.
Yeah,
they were fun to watch. Yeah. So what advice would you offer to others who struggle to find their true self and in their life's work?
Well, the first thing I would say is talk to other people. I'm a connector. I've always been a connector, an extrovert and a connector. And I reached out to a bunch of women. In fact, you and I met at a networking event online during COVID, and we had a call. And I kept thinking of, who do I feel? I think the first thing women need to do if they're really at a loss is stop and spend some time alone. So COVID forced me to do that. I would sit out on my deck and just think, what do I want? Where do I see myself? Right? That whole vision yourself. Where do you see yourself? What do you see yourself doing? Make lists. What do I want to do? But for me, I'm a visual. So it's really thinking about, what makes you happy? What, in the perfect world with unlimited funds, what would you do?
Yes.
And right. And then talk to your people, like male mentors, female mentors, talk to all kinds of people. Don't just pick one friend, because sometimes our friends are biased.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? It's have you ever gone to get a haircut from the same person for years and you want to change it and you think that I want to do this now, and then you come home, you're like, it's still the same thing, because they still really think they know you. Yeah. Right? So sometimes when you pick your best friends, that's not the best place. I say what I did was I networked. Just because you aren't in sales does not mean you can't go to a chamber event or a networking event. Go to a networking event, meet other women, meet the women that you want to be like, right? Go to chamber events and meet some women, and you can say, I don't really even know what I want to do or why I'm here. I just wanted to see what other people are doing. Believe me, they will embrace you, and I think it's meet new people. Get yourself out of your comfort zone, talk to new people and past people, talk to people you work with. Did you have a best friend at a job 10 years ago? Reach out to them, right?
Yeah.
You'll start thinking about the things you did and didn't like. I mean, that's literally what I did. I mean, I called up old clients and said, man, I just got to figure out what's next. And I went into so many different directions. I really did, until I landed on the right one. So I connect. And again, go to networking events. It's even if you have nothing to network, it's a great place for women who have been out of the workforce for years.
Mm. Yeah, networking is so important. I don't care if you have a job or you don't have a job, always network, always network. So, Amy, what do you see down the road for personality plates?
Big visions.
Good.
in the next couple years is to expand. Again, I've got one set, but I'm already working on, for this year, creating Christmas ladies. They're going to be called the Merry Sisters.
Cute. I love it.
And they will be decorated and in Christmas colors for the holidays. Working on a set of ladies for those ladies that play canasta and mahjong. So, the gaming sisters, maybe, I don't know, we're still tweaking that one, but they're going to be really fun. And of the generation of women that still get together in force to play their card games or their mahjong, inspired by my mahjong friends. And then, long term, I'm working on diverse plates. I've got some artists I'm working with to create, Black women, Indian women. I'd love to do an international collection.
Oh, that would be great.
Where, I have an artist from different cultures design plates that are of their culture. And then those artists would be a featured artist, and we'd be able to, donate the portions of their plates to their nonprofit of their choice, to their country.
That is great. And you do that anyway, right? You donate a
Yeah,
portion.
I do. Right. That's what so for me right now, it's local, like, some of the Haven houses and safe houses here. But if I went that other route to a series of international artists, I would let those people pick, to donate for their fund.
Right.
That's something we could do for them, and then the bigger picture is I also have wine charms now that match these plates. So, of course, along with the wine charms, earrings, necklaces, jewelry, serving platters, the charcuterie board made of the faces. So I see, a whole line out there.
Great. So, Amy, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you, to invite you to come speak and to look at your beautiful products?
Oh, thank you. So I've got hello@personalityplates.com. www.personalityplates.com is the website, and you can even choose to email from inside there. And again, AmyWynne Designs or Personality Plates Instagram or Facebook pages, and I check those messages regularly.
Okay, great. Well, Amy, you are an inspiration to not only women, but many people who seem lost. And I think it's a great message to tell people to not to be afraid to fail in life or business, and to keep trying until you find that thing that's a perfect fit for you. And I appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Thank you, Diane. It is always great talking to you, but thank you for this.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for watching Business Notes. We've been speaking with AmyWynne Rees, artist and creator of Personality Plates. I'm your host, Diane Bogino, bringing you business ideas you can bank on.